Gentlemen, welcome back to From the Bunker. I'm your host, Eli. I have a great friend of mine here, Jeff Austin. We happen to have been in the same truck for a deployment in Afghanistan, so pretty excited about this one. Jeff's one of those people that just keeps the mood light most of the time and kept us motivated over there back in the day. 10, 11, mostly 11. But yeah, so we have Jeff. He is Army National Guard in the state of Iowa, 34th Infantry Division. You still with them, right? Everyone's
No,
34th.
I'm with the 734th RSG
Oh, okay.
currently.
They're not as cool, so whatever. Red box.
We went up to Grayling here 2 years ago.
You did?
Yeah, to support the 36th CSSB.
So while I was gone.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I could have came and saw you.
I know. Fun times.
Yeah. All right, so Jeffrey, why did you join the Army National Guard?
So, I'd always wanted to join the Army, but graduated high school, didn't know what I was going to do, went into an electrical apprenticeship, and then I was like, well, I'm in an apprenticeship now, why would I leave and go to boot camp or anything crazy like that? Mm-hmm. So it kind of got put on hold, and I was like, I'm not even going to worry about it now. And then I got let go from a job and got picked up on a different job, and my apprentice was actually an E5 in the Iowa National Guard in the Alpha Company BSP, and he was like, hey man, we're getting ready to deploy, you should join us. And I was like, sure. So I went to the recruiter and I joined up and I deployed. It was like a lot of people are like, yeah, I had all these plans to do it, and I was just like, yeah, whatever. So I ended up going to MEPS, enlisted the day before I got married. My wife didn't know. I mean, she knew she knew I was talking to the recruiter, and she knew I was going to enlist, but she didn't know when. And then the date came up, and I was like, yep, here's my raise your right hand, and then the next day I got married, and then I was like, hey, I'm in the Army now. I leave in January.
You can't run away now.
No, it's pretty convenient because my paid basic entry date is almost the same date as my wedding anniversary, so it's pretty easy to remember both.
Yeah. Well, so the question is, does the wedding help you remember when you joined, or is it the other way around?
Yes.
Don't answer that.
Yes. She's going to listen to this episode, so yes.
That's funny. And then, if I remember correctly, were you a PFC when you got to us?
Yeah, I was a PFC when I got to you.
Yeah, straight out of basic to deployment.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, so my wife ended up being she would have been 3 months pregnant when I left for boot camp in January. And then I got out of AIT. I was home for 3 or 4 weeks, and then we had our 2-week AT to train up for pre-mob. And I went home 4 days early because she went into labor. Had the kid, went back to the pre-mob for the last 3 days, and then came home for 6 weeks, and then we left again.
Wow.
So it was a whirlwind of activities, and she has been a saint for the last 15 years now. I've been in the Guard.
Your wife is a boss.
Oh, she is 100% the boss.
You
She's
just have
the big bad
kid?
evil guy. Just had the 5th kid.
Yeah. 5
and
kids.
I still travel.
On the road for work, which we'll get into later.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then does she still work?
Oh yeah, she still works. She's a program coordinator at a hospital. So a nurse safety person.
If you if you're listening to this and you think you can't do it, you can do it, whatever it
Oh,
is.
and she went through school while I was in my second apprenticeship and in the Guard and traveling, and she
Wow.
got her master's in nursing, and she's going to be finishing her doctorate. She's going to go back to school here in probably another 6 or 7 months.
Oh my gosh.
So we think we have it hard. Like our spouses have it way harder.
Yeah. And they're better at so many more things than us. It's
Oh
annoying.
yeah, hands down the best.
Like, how do you? I made a funny video one time about trying to fold Caitlin's clothes because they're like not square like dudes' clothes.
Yeah,
Like,
like
how do
like
you
they wear
fold
those
these?
weird like tank top, crop top things, and you're like, how do I
Yeah,
even like fold this thing up?
yeah. It's like it like goes like this.
Uh huh.
Trying to fold.
Just roll them all. Everything rolls the same. Size of a
Yeah,
dollar bill, man.
just in a Ranger roll her socks and panties in there,
Yeah.
and
Just make
oh,
clothing sets. This is how you wear your clothes now, dear.
this looks like it goes together.
Yes.
That
It
would be pretty funny.
would be awesome.
So, for the pleasure of the listeners and people who have been in the military, which most people listening probably are, wouldn't
All
be
like
surprised
20 of
by this
us.
story. Yeah, wouldn't be surprised by this story, but so on my second deployment, I was with Jeff, but we did not start out together. I was part of a personal security detail, and there was like 6 of us infantrymen. And then we, along the way, while we were at Camp Shelby, Mississippi, they sent us some heavy equipment engineers, combat engineers, and I think
Truck
this is, yeah.
drivers
Well, no,
and a
you didn't
water
get
dog.
this till that was later
No,
though.
but
You-
the ones I replaced, they were truck drivers. Did
Yeah,
they
I don't,
start out with you guys?
no. So when we got to country, that's when they sent us you and that other group of.
Other
So,
two.
but you got to us after we were there.
Yeah, I came to you in, let's see, we got there around November, and
Yeah,
then I was in country for 2 or 2.5 months. I went home on leave, and then I came back, and they're like, "Hey, the colonel had some issues and was like, GTFO these dudes out, and we have to send them 2 of our best troops. So you're going over there now." I was like, "Oh,
uh,
okay." There-
yeah, and then we ended up together, and it was great.
It was awesome.
So our hodgepodge platoon, you had 6 infantrymen, you had a water purification, you had supply.
Hmm.
Did we have mechanics? No,
No mechanics.
no mechanics because they were actually doing their job.
Yeah,
And then
two truck drivers, 3
truck
truck drivers
drivers.
if you include uh the gremlin we had.
Oh yeah, that didn't. Yeah. Uh, what else did we have? Does that cover everything?
Seaburn.
Oh yeah, and
I think
I
that
think
was
that's
it.
it. Yeah.
Just a bunch of
So you have
randoms.
this. It was about 40-ish people, 30 something, and they're like, "Hey, now you have like 2 squads," and we would rotate. Like what? One week you would do personal security missions and foot patrols, and then the other week you were on QRF for a week. And
Yeah, well, it started out we weren't doing foot patrols though, because it was like we would do QRF one week, and then it was kind of like a bye week where we would do little escort missions, but then the rest of the time we
yeah,
were off. And then they were like,
yeah.
"Oh, you guys aren't busy enough. Here's these foot patrols, and then here's this desk duty too."
Oh yeah, the desk duty at the Pink Palace.
Yeah.
Those watching who've been to Bagram know the Pink Palace
Yes.
over
The Pink
right
Palace.
by uh right by the PAX terminal.
They had
That's
the
where we
people
hung
who
out.
had the least F's to give, being the ECP.
Yeah, yeah. We're like, what the hell are we doing here?
We don't know who you are. Just sign the sheet. Go on.
And so we're doing all that, sweeping the parking lot.
Oh yeah, with
That was
masks on because it was dusty.
yeah,
Do
yeah.
you remember
We
when that
what?
sergeant major came up to me and it was like, "Hey, why is your weapon dirty?" I was like, "Because I've been sweeping a parking lot." Like, what do you want me to do? Wrap the thing in plastic? He did not like that answer.
And that pretty much sums up your personality. So
Yeah, I've had a couple of altercations like that with some CSMs.
oh, dude. And then so Jeff ends up being my driver, which is great because he knew everything about the trucks, and then we grew a great friendship. We had a
We
lot of
made a
fun in
band.
that truck, dude. Yeah. We played Rock Band in the basement at the building next to the Pink Palace when we were on
We had
QRF. Which,
remember our 3-man water balloon launcher?
yeah. Dude, I almost forgot about that.
Shooting water balloons at the Pink Palace.
Yeah.
Then we had to hide it after one blew up over somebody.
And then
If you,
we had wiffle ball home run derby.
yep, that
That
was
was
a
a good
lot
time.
until we lost all the wiffle balls.
Yeah. Or they
Do you
broke.
remember what our band
And
name
then
was?
Floor Herald.
Flora Herald.
Oh, dude. So we got to tell this story. So there we are. We're in Afghanistan on a QRF mission. And so we had to drive, I don't know, quite a ways from Bagram, like an hour or
Yeah,
two to like this small mountain range. Uh, so we had to hit the switchback road that was paved on the way up that we barely made the turns. We had like the Hemet wreckers with us with the hydraulics on the back and barely made the turns getting up that. Then we come back down this edge of this other ridge and we're driving up this dirt switchback road that's even worse in some spots. And then we get to the top and then the cav unit was like 200 meters below us or so in
they were
contact.
engaging like a small town too.
Yeah, like they were like there's like a goalie there or something, and they were taking contact, and then these Kiowas helicopters fly in and then shoot some missiles at it. That was pretty sweet. We had a good view for that.
Yeah,
And yeah, so we had to go get this Mat V that had either hit an IED or an old
mine.
mine. Yeah, we weren't sure. And like the front left or right tire just blown off. So we get it hooked up and everything, and then we're like, all right, how we barely made it up here. How are we gonna get back? So it happened to be that there was like these turnouts on the switchbacks. So we had to the Hemet wrecker would pull, like you have the switchback, would pull up and then go as far as they could, and we'd hook up a Mat V with chains to pull the Mat V that the Hemet wrecker's pulling around the corner. Dude, that was nuts, man. That was pretty ingenuitive too.
That was
Uh
almost about as cool as the time when uh, the truck in front of us on that night mission to go find that
oh
truck
no,
with all
oh yeah.
the UXO and they fell through the bridge. And then we were behind them in the Max Pro and we're like, we're way heavier than them. Like, we just gotta send it.
Yeah. So, but during this mission, so we're like we make it around these turns, like these switchbacks, and we're on this narrow dirt road on next to a cliff, and they're like ground guiding because it's like that sketchy. And then the Mat V the Hemet wrecker is towing starts going off the edge of the road, and these like this recovery team that joined with us was from somewhere in the south, maybe I think they were Kentucky or something. And
Yeah, I
they're like,
think it was a Kentucky asset.
yeah, they're like, we're on the radio and he sees him going off and he's like, Forward, Harold. Like, he like literally pulls the truck back up from going off a cliff. Like, I
Dude,
thought we were going to watch him just go down.
man, Hemets are some beasts of military machinery.
Yeah. So
That's like my
he
favorite
floors it.
platform.
Yeah. And we never, like, I'll never forget that moment, dude. Floor at Harold was just stuck in all of our heads. We really need to get like stickers and shirts made still.
Yes, that's.
But that was wild, dude.
There's
And
one
then
other time where somebody was yelling at us. That one 10 click patrol we were coming back through, and we were following that
oh
goat
no, yeah,
path,
that
and then
oh, yeah, that's another good story. But wait, there's more to the story we're already telling. So they just finished getting in contact, and now we're towing this truck. We make it past these cliffs, and I'm like, you know, this was my second deployment, and I'm like, this is prime time. The sun's going down. We're towing this truck. We're about to get hit. And it was like no one's around because someone was just in a tick right there. But
yeah,
I'm like, and then we got out of there. Nothing happened. But we get to the bottom of the switchbacks that we originally came up. That's actually paved. Get to the very last one at the bottom of the valley, and the Hemet turned it too sharp, and the hydraulic just starts spewing. And so they had to drag this MATV, and we were the truck behind them, like for an hour. I don't know, was it an hour and a half, 2 hours just to get back to
yeah,
base. And there's
just
like
shooting
hot,
sparks.
yeah, and there's like hot glowing parts just popping off. Like, oh, there goes the spring. And then there's this huge hot stripe in the asphalt the whole way back, dude.
Yeah,
Oh
that
my
was good
god.
times.
And then the cool thing about like being on a huge base like Bagram was the chow hall was legit, and we had midnight chow. So we
Oh
all went to
yeah,
midnight chow, and we're like, we're getting ice cream, bro. That was the day.
yeah, yeah. Bagram, like like being on a small cop, I think would be awesome. But being on Bagram, yeah, there was like so many amenities there with just like the chow halls. I think we had what 4 or 5 chow halls when we were there.
Yeah, at least probably. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Country night, huge gyms,
Yep.
movies. It was we had we had LAN cables hooked up to our Xbox 360s, and we were playing
Hmm.
uh the first
Weren't you playing
Black Ops.
zombies?
Yeah, the first Black Ops. That's what we were all
Yeah.
playing. Yeah. And that was yeah, it was pretty legit. It was a nice time.
Yeah.
Like my first deployment was like really crappy, like no showers, pooping in bags. So that was a huge upgrade.
Yep.
um, yeah, but that was a one of the definitely a highlight of that deployment. We didn't get in like contact or anything, but that was a fun day.
Yeah.
And
We had some
then
scares a couple times.
yeah, well, we had to go out a few times for like some ID. We went out with EOD a lot, but
Yeah.
most of it was USO.
We were the reason they had to start asking permission from President Karzai to blow stuff up in place because we kept blowing out all the windows on the schools.
Yeah. Man, we had some other good stories. What was the one you were just talking about?
Oh, when came back, we had to go on. This was like our longest patrol. We were doing like 10 clicks. We got driven out, and then we had to do like an important VIP meeting, and then we walked back along with a couple other companies.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
we got back to closer to the base, and we're right outside base, and all of a sudden the security forces are like, "Hey, like, whoa, stop!" And we're like, "What?" And
yeah.
then we got on the main road, and they're like, "You guys were in a minefield." We're like,
And I'm the
"Damn it, Schultz!"
I know I was the point man. Like how was I supposed to know, dude?
And then
At
like
least I can.
for the rest of the
And then
time, we'd go out that special forces gate, and then it'd be like right there on our right. We'd be like, "Hey, Schultz, remember that time we walked through that death trap with you?"
yeah,
I don't think
yeah,
you were
but then
point man again after that.
yes, I was. That was not my fault. Okay. No one gave me a map that said there was one there. That's a
but
failure on
but
my leadership.
did we die? No, we didn't.
No, I stayed on the parts that walked on. So
Yeah,
you know,
I mean it was a blast. Memory, fondness.
luckily it wasn't a blast.
You are very correct in that one.
Well, then we had two guys. It's okay to name them because it's just a silly moment. But when uh Brad and Kyle were playing catch with a mine, and they're like, "Hey, what's this thing?" And
They
they're like,
brought the
"Hey, maybe we should get EOD." Like, you're like, "Oh yeah, that's mine."
yeah. And then EOD shows up and they look at the dude bringing it in his man jams and they're like, "Whoa!" They're like, "Those are cluster
Well,
bombs."
they were playing catch with
Yeah, like a football.
it.
I think that was the same day that Brad and Kyle ate that clover or whatever it was from that ditch we stopped at.
Mm. Oh man.
Brad ate a lot of
Remember?
weird stuff.
Yeah. Oh, and then I remember one time we were trying to be like equal opportunity and let some of the smaller. We had chicks in the platoon carry the heavy stuff, and then we just had to take it from them eventually.
Well, that one time she was complaining, and so we're like, "All right, here's the sked," and then it was as tall as she was, and it just kept hitting her in the back of the calves because she was so short. We felt bad then to take it from her. Like your
Oh,
calves are taking a beating.
I wonder how much cancer we're gonna have from carrying Duke systems on our back.
No kidding. You know that time
Just
we threw that box of candy at the base of her feet?
no.
Right before we left, we went out and had this giant box of like Easter candy or whatever it was. And then she was like standing there not paying attention, and we threw the whole box of candy at her. And then the kids swarmed her, and she freaked out and then kicked it down into the ditch where there was a little river, and then they all jumped in after it. It's like, yes! Because they kept asking for baksheesh. Baksheesh?
Yeah.
You had to make sure everything was tied down or they'd come get you. Never forget
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Ever.
That was a good time.
Good times. Then I came back
Yeah.
after deployment and I got picked up within 6 months for my 5. And then that started
Yeah.
my
That
whole
was.
tour of every 2 years I'd get moved.
Yeah. This guy. This guy. Let's see. I had 2011 when we got back. So I had 7 years in when we got home. I didn't get my E5 till 10 years, dude, and you like got yours at what, like 3?
Yeah, I was like 3. And then, well, I had no, because I had, let's see, I would have had my 5 and 4, and then I had my 6 and I had my 6 and 5.
Yeah.
So I went the minimum amount of time from E5 to E6, and I got picked up at the RTI there in Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's the most fun I've ever had being an instructor at an MOST.
Nice.
I got
Were you
into
were you still part-time? You never went full-time like ADOS
yeah,
or anything, did you?
no, I've always been MD. So I've been pretty fortunate in the jobs I've had as a National Guard soldier. I've been MD my
Yeah.
whole time. Stints of orders here and there, but nothing more than like a month or two, you know.
Yeah.
So like I did some guest instructing down in the RTI for Missouri. I did guest instructing in Ashland at their RTI. I did a bunch of instructing at our RTI. So I think I was there for 3 years and I taught 6 classes from start to
Mm.
finish, and the average is like a half a class a year. So I enjoyed it. I met so many guys through being an instructor that I still talk to them now from all over the
Yeah.
country.
That's
Army schools are crazy like that.
I should have looked into that stuff more, I guess. I never thought about it once, and now that you're saying it, like that sounds pretty nice right now.
Yeah, dude, it was awesome. Like
I just
ATs where I'd just go and teach class. I'd stay in a barracks. I'd be done by 1700 at night.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, that's
awesome. Like
awesome.
when look at the bottom of your NCR, it says uh whatever your next assignments are. And it's like broadening assignment, instructor. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
don't go
Mine's
be a
like
recruiter.
going to the field again. and again.
Yeah.
Going on
My,
deployment again.
mine gets scary now. They're like, go be an operations sergeant. I'm like, ooh. I did that once. That was a headache. That was one time. So we went to. So I got picked up for my 7 at a battalion in the S3 shop to be the master driver
Mhm.
there because like the Army's gotten big into the driver's program now. And I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, cool, no big deal. I fell underneath an E8 who was there at the time. It was me and this E8, and then we had a stand-in captain who wasn't qualified to do anything, but he thought he knew everything. And then we had another captain who was leaving. So we go to Grayling that year for like we're supporting a big MSC, the 36th out of Texas. They're like, hey, we need you to come be our CSSB for us. We're like, all right, cool. Well, my E8 is like, oh, I'm too broken, I can't go. And then my one captain, who doesn't know anything, he ended up being the OIC, and we had a sergeant major there. Some shit was popping off in the exercise, and it was pretty stressful because I'm an E7, first time in the battalion, don't know what I'm doing, but I'm the
Yeah.
acting 3 NCOIC for a battalion element, and I'm stressing out. And he's just being an idiot. I'm like, sir, you
You're like,
can't
I'm
do
a truck
that. Well, and my thankfully, like I know you told me this one time when we were out patrolling and stuff. You're like, you're the most infantry pogue I've ever met. I was like, fuck yeah,
Yeah.
that felt good. And then I get to to do this operations thing, and I'm like, I really learned a lot from that time doing PSD with you guys for like patrols and missions and all that stuff. Just the way I think changed after that.
Mhm.
So he's freaking out over some stuff, wanting to send QRF all these places. I'm like, sir, you just need to sit down and shut the fuck up. Like, I don't have time to deal with you and all this other stuff. Like, just go over there and stand in the corner. We're not doing your dumb ideas. And then, so that happens. And then we end up going out into the ECP, waiting for some information. And the battalion sergeant major rolls in. And he's like, what's going on? And the captain was like, sir, I need you to leave my talk now. And, like, have you ever seen the air around somebody just turn from like calm, cool demeanor to just death? Like you can feel it radiating off of them? That was this sergeant major. You could feel like, and me and my S2 and NCIC were standing like, it's like a U shape in our ECP. So the sergeant major
Mhm.
came in and was blocking the exit, and the captain was blocking the entrance into the talk. So we're just like standing there like, okay, if he goes after this guy, like he's going over our E4 S2 we're enlisted and just gonna murder this dude. And that's probably the most uncomfortable I have ever been in my military career. And then this same captain the next year, we're at the range, and he was arguing with me about something about zeroing and how the soldiers were being crappy fighters. And I looked at him and was like, sir, you're the problem here. He's like, I'm not the problem, you're the problem. I was like, all right, sir. And I had my uh, body armor on, so I just grabbed the rank at my neck and I threw it down on the ground. And I put my fists up. I was like, all right, sir, we're going right now. You can either strip the rank or I'm going to jail. And he was like, whoa, sir. And then he like left the range. I was pissed, man. Like, you don't talk about my soldiers that way.
Yeah. Whether
So,
they could shoot or not, okay?
yeah, I mean, he was just teaching them wrong and I was not having it. And then he left.
Well,
I
what's
didn't
a
see him the
captain
rest
out
of the
there
day.
doing? It's not his job.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, sort of. It gets weird once you get at the battalion level. Like officers have to start stepping in and helping with NCO stuff. But
Yeah.
he was
Yeah,
just
dude,
yeah.
it's so weird that I just got back and then I'm in a new battalion, so I'm HHC mortars and like
Hmm.
I'm like, whoa, we're not a maneuver element,
Yeah.
and like I'm I'm back in it. I haven't been in a HHC since I was with you,
Hmm.
and uh, all the S shops are doing their thing, and I'm like, yo, I need like equipment to do a range
Yeah.
and
You're
like
like, what do I do with my
comms.
hands?
Yeah, like hello.
Yeah.
So
Dude, try being the
yeah,
first sergeant of an HHC. It's even worse. You're getting pulled in
man.
like 2 different directions. They're like, we got
Well,
to
that's
get this battalion stuff done, but you got to hit all your mets. I'm like, well, then I need time. And they're like, we don't give you any time.
I know, dude. I'm like still trying to get my bearings on my new unit and like our equipment. Where are we at with this? Where are we at with that?
Yeah, good
And
luck.
yeah, we're going to the field for 5 days and shooting mortars. And you're like, I I hope everything works. Like you know, I just got here.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So
I picked up I when I became the first sergeant, I was like, all right, our shit's all jacked up, and people are like, we need this. I'm like, yeah, you're not getting it because it don't work. You need to use it more in order for it to be functional. Well, we don't have time for that. I'm like, well, then I don't have time to candor to give things to you. Like, it
hmm
doesn't work this way. Like, that's
well,
just
you
not
know
how
what
it works.
I don't like about the Army is like in the Marine Corps we had a company gunny.
Uh-huh.
It's like platoon sergeants, unless you're weapons. Platoon sergeants are E6s, and then there's one E7 in the company, and he's like in charge of all the beans and bullets. And your first sergeant's in charge of like morale and discipline,
Yeah.
and then making sure like admin stuff's done. Like and and the Army first sergeants are just pulled way too many directions. I think because you
So
have to do both of those jobs.
I'm kind of in one of those really unique Army positions. I'm one of two E7 first sergeants in the state of Iowa.
hmm
So, like when we go into the commander's all call, which was all of the Air Guard and all of the Army National Guard going to the tags like day of conference thing, I was
hmm
one of one E7s that was there with a bunch of E8s and above. So,
Yeah.
super awkward. And all of them, all the CSMs and stuff, because I'm trying to pick up an E8 first sergeant spot somewhere, even though I don't need to because I already have the first sergeant identifier.
hmm
Um, I just want to do it because I haven't suffered enough, so why not suffer some more, you know?
Yeah.
And I still feel like I have more to give to soldiers, and being a first sergeant would be the best way to affect that. Like you said, morale. That's like my number one job. And
Yeah.
they're like, you have the hardest first sergeant role ever right now. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, I feel it every day I go to drill. Like my wife, we got drill next weekend, and my wife was like, we went out today because I only work Monday through Fridays right now, and all day, like I fielded phone calls from the readiness, from supply, from our unit or our battalion retention representative. You know, it's like two
hmm
weeks out from drill, I know phone calls are going to start, and
Yeah.
that's like the hardest part is maintaining that. But it is fulfilling in the end, I think. And for like me, all I really worry about is the commander's intent being hit, making sure training's executed, all that stuff, everything goes flow,
hmm
and morale, like you said. Morale's huge.
Yeah. Well, I was talking on our last episode how I had my first platoon sergeant in the Marine Corps was just an amazing leader,
Hmm.
and he was firm but fair and always looked out for us, so we would do anything for him. And
Yeah,
I try to take that with me. So.
yeah, that's definitely how I try and lead too. I like to push guys to do things that they don't feel they're comfortable to do, but being
hmm
there to support them the whole time. But then by the
Yeah.
time I get them trained up to be where I need them, they go off and get promoted and leave me, and I got to start all over again. I'm like, I'm done training you people.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm yeah, it's like let's talk about the challenges of being part-time, man.
Yeah.
The challenges of being active duty is like you get stationed somewhere not where you're from.
Hmm.
You don't get to like live wherever you want, so wherever they send you. And then you're usually, if you're gonna be in a long time, you're gonna have like career progression. Like, are you gonna go be a recruiter, an instructor, whatever? You have to do something other than just like be in your unit
Yeah.
at some point. And then just a constant rotation of training and being gone and all that, especially depending on your MOS. But,
Hmm.
when you're guard, especially if you're someone who cares, and like when I was active duty, we just like train, and we were so good at our job, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and so then to go be guard and like try to just live your life, and then all of a sudden one weekend just turn it on, like Thursday through Sunday or whatever
Hmm.
it's gonna be, because it's usually not Saturday, Sunday. Uh, and then like remember how to do complicated things, dude. Like, as an infantryman, like let me just remember land nav. Like
Yeah.
that can be complicated.
Well, and that's a 10
Trying to
level task too.
Yeah, so I mean, and then as you like progress as in my job, like a mortarman, you have to become fire direction center and learn how to put rounds where they need to go. And then you have to coordinate like if there's air, so you don't
Hmm.
shoot down planes or helicopters. You have to take into account wind and all these different factors to make sure your round lands where it goes, or you could hurt your people or innocent people or whatever.
Yeah.
And then just hey, just show up. And then like sometimes command or like people who aren't mortars, like they don't understand all the things that go into it. Like, oh, you just
Hmm.
show up and shoot at the range. Like, no, dude, no, because if you mess
Yeah.
up, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
you know, it's and then like trying to be an expert at your civilian job.
Hmm.
Like, if you don't care, it's whatever, right? But
Yeah.
guys like us, like we want to be really good at what we're doing. So like, let's talk about what it's been like for you. What's your civilian career been like since you got back from like our deployment in 2011?
So I started out as an electrician, inside wireman, electrician. Guy comes to your house, works on outlets and switches and stuff.
Hmm.
And I did that for a few years. And then I got restless at the job I was at 'cause I was working at a factory doing maintenance stuff. And then my squad leader from overseas was like, "Hey, you should come work for me. Like, you'll be happier. You get to travel a bunch." And I was like, "All right, cool," because I didn't really feel like being inside of a fence all day was where I could be at mentally.
Hmm.
And so I went and worked with him for 2 or 3 years, and I was like, like my boss kept giving me a hard time about being gone for military stuff, and I was like I'd be gone for I went to BLC, and then I was like, hey, I want to take like a week motorcycle trip out to Colorado. We trailered our bikes out there. We rode around the state and came back. And he was like, well, you already have more time off than everybody else. And I was like, hey, I quit, buddy. Like, I'm not playing that game.
Yeah,
So
you're like that's
that was,
definitely not time off.
yeah. So, and I was like, yeah, I'm not here working for you Monday through Friday, but I'm working Sunday to Sunday for the whole time I'm gone, with the first day and the last day being travel days. Like, there's no time off.
Yeah.
And it's like you hit the nail on the head when you said you've got to switch mentalities. And I think below E5, you can do that. You can switch between your
Hmm.
Army brain and your civilian brain. And then obviously, as you go higher, if you don't care, like you said, you can keep switching it and it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
as I got higher and had more responsibility, I was a drill sergeant for a while. I did the drill sergeant school there in Fort Jackson because that's the only authorized one in the Army now. So I did that one, and that's where um, I really came into my passion of being an instructor. Like, I was an instructor at the RTI, and I was good at it, and I enjoyed it, but it was truck driving. So
Hmm.
yeah, being a trucker is easy. I can teach you how to turn a steering wheel and push a go button, right? Um, but teaching teaching people who have no military skill or bearing to be soldiers, like, that was awesome to me. I rolled into the company, and I was like, hey, what do you guys do for training? They're like, oh, well, we just kind of do what's going to be fun at the time. I'm like, no, that's not how we're going to do things now. Because I had talked with the OIC, the officer in charge, and I was like, hey, sir, like, how do you want me to run this program? How do you want to use me? He's like, they're yours at drill. I'm like, Roger, sir. So I created a training program on things that I saw by polling my other drill sergeant friends who are active duty, like, what's the hardest
Hmm.
thing trainees have to do? And so I created like land nav, and we did some first aid stuff, and obviously focused on PT because that's what most people are in America.
Hmm.
And we went from bottom middle of the pack in graduations to we were the number one RSP company in the state of Iowa.
Nice.
So, and like, I still see some of those guys today, and you can still see the fear in their eyes when they see me rolling in, even though I don't have the cool brown hair anymore. And I'm like,
Yeah.
nah, we're cool now. It's not like that anymore. But
Yeah, dude.
that was when I really like at drill sergeant school. So a lot of people, they think like, oh, you just go there and yell at a tree. Well, that's not the case. Like you do basic training. So I did basic training twice. Everything you do in basic training, I did at drill sergeant school. Only I learned how to teach it while doing it.
Yeah.
So like all the D&C commands, you have to memorize them. Some of them. So like the way my company did it was you would each set of commands was broken into three or four different like units, you know what I mean? And then you would go out and you would have to recite them verbatim. They said hit all the key points, but that's pretty
Hmm.
much the whole thing because that's how the army writes. And but you're reciting it to a squad of soldiers who are also drill sergeant candidates, and your grader is somewhere in the vicinity. They're not next to you. And if they see one of the candidates make a mistake or you make a mistake, that's a point against you.
Oh.
And so what I did was I went and learned all of them up to like an 85, 90% level. So the night before we would have to pitch our command, we would draw which command we're going to pitch.
Hmm.
So then you had to have it memorized for the next day or learn. So I learned all of them, and then I had friends there that they struggled to remember them. So when they were teaching, I would intentionally mess up so that they would have to be like, "Oh, like this guy made a mistake. Like I got to fix that because it's not right." So that's kind of where I learned my passion of, hey, in order to be an instructor, you can't be the sage on the stage anymore.
Hmm.
You have to guide on the side and kind of help people while letting them make the mistakes and looking out for them when it's not necessarily your responsibility, right? So like
Hmm.
when you're not at drill, are you thinking about your troops?
Yeah,
Yeah, me too. And
for
that's
sure.
like even though I'm the first sergeant and I'm not getting paid during the week, but if a snowstorm rolls through and we had that really cold snap, I send out a leaves text. Hey, check on your troops, make sure like they all have power, make sure they're all safe, report back to me at this time. A bunch of
Hmm.
little mundane stuff like that, like constantly thinking about your troops and worrying about them and checking in on them, having like I don't think I ever really talked to my troops about army stuff doing army things, if that makes sense. Like when I'm there talking to them after I give them their orders, hey, this is what we got to get done, go do this stuff. If they don't have
Hmm.
questions about that, I'm usually like, hey, how's your life going? Like, what are you planning on doing? How's school? Just getting to know them so that I can ensure that their time in the army is a benefit for them because then they'll work harder for the army.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like you
So,
said, yeah,
yeah. So getting back to civilian side again. So you quit that job because they weren't giving you
yep,
they were giving you a hard time about having to do all this stuff, which as an employer that sucks. And
yeah,
if you're listening and you're in the guard, you don't know, and you have a cool employer, make sure you get them a Patriot Award. Like my employer, while I was just gone on deployment, he sent me cigars every month, got me a really nice cigar cutter, and I came home to a raise in a company truck. Like, and I was only there 9 months before I left.
nice,
So like that guy took care of me. So like I wanted to present him with an award, and like it felt really good to do something for him. Like what am I gonna do for him? So like I worked
yeah,
hard for him. But they put up with a lot, man. I was gone 14 months from work, and then I come back and I'm back in the guard again, being
yeah.
gone. So,
It's hard.
but
So I left that job and I went and worked at a, a school, the school of the hat that you're wearing. I worked for them as an area
oh
mechanic, an
yeah,
area electrician.
heck yeah.
Um, and I was working there for a while, and I wanted to do something different. I was like, hey, I've done just about everything. I've done generators. You name it on the inside world, I did it. And I was like,
Hmm.
I kind of want to do something different and be outside more. But I didn't want to do what I was doing. So I was like, well, maybe I can go apply for their power utility department at the school. And they're like, and I was already medium voltage termination certified, which is like the power cable that feeds the green transformers. That's medium
Okay,
voltage cables.
okay,
Um, so I could already do that. And they're like, well, you need more substation time. And I was like, all right, cool. So then I looked into going to college and I did that for a little bit. And I was like, yeah, college is not for me. Like it just wasn't.
Not surprised there.
Yeah. Like I had one teacher who was like, dude, like they'd give you, in like writing classes, they're like, your papers need to be X amount of words long and cover this topic. And I was like, all right, cool. So I'd like write the paper and then I'd turn it in, but it'd be short, like 1,000 words. And they're like, you hit all the
That's
points
kind
and
of
you
a lot.
explain. Yeah. And they're like, you hit all the points and you thoroughly explained everything. Like, we'll give you full credit. And I was like, hey, sorry. Like, the Army has taught me to be clear and concise and to the point with writing. I can't add in all these frivolous, useless words just because you want to hit a word mark. Like, I'm going to give you what you
Yeah.
want and move on with my life. And they're like, okay, cool. And so I was like, yeah, college is definitely not for me. So I looked
Yeah.
into like a like a trade school type thing where it was just for line school to go be a lineman because I could get substation experience going through something like that. And then, so I was like, hey, I already have all this electrical background. Like I know how to do electrical things. I have a CDL. Like the only thing you're gonna teach me is to climb poles. Can I take test out of all your program and just take that portion? And he was like, well, hey, why don't you join uh this apprenticeship, Missouri Valley Line Constructors in Indianola?
Hmm.
And I was like, all right, cool, I'll do that. So that's when I jumped ship and I told my wife, I was like, hey, gonna go do this. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'll be gone. I won't be working at home. I can basically, you work anywhere within their 7-state jurisdiction. And I was like, I can work anywhere in here and they can tell me where I work and for how long. And she's like,
Dude,
okay.
you duped her on the wedding day, and then you do this to her later on. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it was a pretty rough go in the beginning because she thought I said one thing and I did not say that, and it took a lot of time. Eventually, though, I ended up uh, working. It worked out. I My first job I started on, I ended up going to ALC, the Advanced Leader course, to be an E6, and then I guest instructed at another course back to back. And I'd only been working for this company for a month and they paid me the whole, like I come back and I had like a huge check and I was like, hey, somebody like made a mistake. Like I got paid way more than they should have. And they're like, oh no, like we pay you a standard 40-hour week for every week that you're gone over a drill weekend. That's larger than
Whoa.
a drill weekend. I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. And so that was pretty cool to see. And like so far, everybody I've worked for in the line construction industry has like I don't get like that's the only company that's ever done anything cool like that.
Hmm.
But uh, outside of that, all the general foreman and foreman I work for, they're like, yeah, man, like that's awesome. Like you go do you, and we'll cover for you when you're gone. And so
Yeah.
that has definitely been a nice change in balance. Um, I got a little bit of pushback so towards the end of my apprenticeship, they sent me to Arizona to work.
Mm.
So, and being a first sergeant, you can't just be like, hey, I'm going to split train drill for 3 months and then come back. Like, it doesn't work that way. So, I would
Yeah.
fly back. I would fly back on Thursdays. I would be home Friday morning, see my kids off to school. I would drive to Des Moines for drill on Saturday, Sunday, and then I would leave at like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday, fly back to Arizona to work for Tuesday. And I did
Dang.
that for 4 months.
Hmm.
So definitely a rough balance between the work life there and the army life and the home life. Um, but definitely having like they say your family's a big support, and it really is. Like that's the biggest that's the only reason I've been able to reenlist every 6 years so
Hmm.
far is because they're there to help with the stressors of all of it, with balancing work and the guard life.
Yeah. Hey man, you gotta stay in for that TRICARE, bro. Dude,
Yeah,
honest,
yeah.
dude,
I get
if it
free
wasn't for
health insurance
TRICARE,
through work.
oh man, why are you still in?
Oh, guy,
I guess you get a retirement.
that's probably about the only reason at this point is I get a retirement and then I see those little trooplets, their eyes light up when we do some cool activities, and I'm like, hell yeah, I came up with that.
Yeah. Well, so I have a year and a half till I retire, but I'll be at like 21 years because I had a bad year
Yep,
when I transferred states. How
because
much
you're a
time do
bad
you have
person.
left?
Uh, I will be at, I believe, 2029. I can retire at
Okay.
20.
Yeah. So you gotta
And I
wait.
haven't
So
had any bad years left yet. Knock on wood,
yeah.
I haven't made too many sergeant majors mad to give me bad years, but I'm
Nice.
hoping, uh, like, you kind of plan how you want to end your career, where you want to go, where you want to be, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I kind of lost that vibe of where I want to go or what I want to do. I'm all kind of just I'm here to hang out for the next 5 years and do whatever the needs of the people are, I guess.
Yeah.
The Army's already made us suffer enough, and so I've been focusing more on my civilian career than my Army career at this point. It's all just sort of worked out.
Yeah. What would be your advice to um what's your advice to soldiers in general?
What it like? I guess that's a really open question. Um,
And what do you for them to be, I would say, what's your advice for them to maybe
be
be
successful?
happy be happy in the guard and embrace
Oh,
the
they can't.
suck?
They
And
can't. They're just owned. So
because I had to learn later on, like, I did not have the embrace the suck perspective when I was active duty in the Marines at all.
yeah.
And then in the guard, I figured it out and
So
like how to stay motivated.
you kind of almost have to let's rewind to the beginning of this episode when we were talking about like that time we swept a parking lot in Afghanistan in a dust
Yeah.
storm, and
Hmm.
Sergeant Major was yelling at me about a dusty weapon, and
Yeah.
we're wearing pro masks around. Like
Hmm.
that's kind of I like to use that as a good talking point because we embrace the suck. Like yeah, it sucked. We had a blast after the fact. Like we hated doing it and it was no fun, but you look back on our time over there, the walking through the landmines, hauling back broken equipment through switchbacks, sweeping a parking lot in the desert of a war zone. Like it sucks, but it's the best worst times of your life. And you just kind of got to look at it as okay, it didn't kill me, um, but here I am. I'm a better person, and I know that it can always be worse.
Hmm.
I have a morale patch on the breast pocket of my uniform, and when soldiers start whining or bitching and complaining, I just pull it open, and it just says, "But did you die?" So,
Nice.
and they get a laugh out of it. So like
Hey, as
AT last
you could say, it'll buff.
it'll buff. So AT last year was we've had some command climate things before I took over, and it was a pretty rough time for the unit, and a lot of the lower enlisted had some morale problems. So that's kind of been my biggest push so far. Well, as the master driver of the battalion, and I was the driver trainer of the HHC, I was like, hey, let's go drive Camp Dodge and do like we do the Triple Terrace, where it's a big hill thing for LMTVs where you're basically just looking down at the ground when you're going down.
Hmm.
And I was like, hey, let's drive around this area that's sometimes swampy, depending on the time of year and how much rain. And well, it ends up being we get I get one truck stuck, so I'm like, hey, we're gonna turn around, go to the other side, and we'll pull it out. And well, I let the students turn around because they need to learn how to ground guide and do all this stuff. Well, they ended up getting two more trucks stuck. And what do you do when you get a truck stuck? You get out and you try and get it some traction. So you dig a hole, you try and stick big sticks under there, and they had a blast. Just we were out there for 3 or 4 hours just trying to unstick these trucks. And
Hmm.
they were muddy, wet, sweaty. Like it was an all around not fun, but they were having a
Yeah.
blast doing it, like when they do real training. Well, I ended
Hmm.
up getting counseled by an O5 because I had unsafe training. And even though the company commander was there and signed the risk assessment. And so he was pissed, but they would get stuck. And I was like, hey, just press mode because you press mode on an LMTV and it locks it into six-wheel drive. So then their whole thing, the rest of the AT was like, just press mode. And that's been like their company motto since then is just press mode. Or they like to give me the safety third
What's that?
because I got counseled for being unsafe, right? And I mean, you know me. So
Yeah.
rules are rules. Like we're gonna do everything the right way because that's the way the Army wants it, and I'm gonna do it the safest way because I don't want to have to do any paperwork. And
Yeah.
so they're all, I got counseled for being unsafe, and they're like, "You are the furthest person from being unsafe we have ever met during driver's training." I'm like, "Hey man, like safety third."
I get it. That's funny. Oh, rule number one, always look cool.
That's right.
Rule number
Rule number
two,
two,
never get lost. Rule number three, if you get lost, refer to rule number one.
rule number one. Rule number four, cool guys don't look at explosions.
Yes, dude. I wonder how many people, I don't know if younger people know that video, dude.
Oh man, they don't. Yeah, they're missing out on a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I would have to point out here that Jeff has some pretty sweet swag in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, it's your magnet
Legit.
there, your sticker.
Yeah.
I got this one. It says, "Don't confuse your rank with my willingness to beat your ass."
Which you
It's pretty fitting for me. Got your "It'll buff" sticker
Yeah.
in your regular one. Keep waiting for some more sticker drops
Yeah, we need to come back around to those. We went hard on the
on the.
shirts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably
we
get a
got
better sell on those.
yeah. We just wanted to give some easy variety. We'll come back around to the stickers, but we should have hats will probably be the next thing we're working on, and then more stickers. And then
Hell yeah.
like probably some tanks, summer merch.
Yeah.
So we'll be
I like
doing the
that.
summer merch.
We were talking earlier. I got the OG shirt on. That's the one
Yep.
that says "Born to Wait." That's
Yep.
probably the coolest T-shirt I own.
Dude, Matt did a great job designing that. It was like
I know.
uh the way we come up with stuff's pretty fun between Matt, Burke, and myself. It's a good
You
group.
should you should get this bad boy incorporated into a sticker.
Oh, that's our for those watching, that's our old our call sign was convict and that was our logo. I don't know what an Indian head has to do with it, but
I don't
just
know either, but that's been my call sign since Moab. Like, you know what?
yeah,
This fits.
dude.
And then
Yeah.
remember when that uh the other guy that got the Indian tattoo that just looks like a goober?
I haven't seen it.
You have seen it. It was when we
Yeah.
came back, and it was when we met at that bar in downtown Cedar Rapids.
Oh, in 2015.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
then you all were
remember.
like, "Oh, we need a copy of the original one," because I had gotten this one, and he had
Yeah.
gotten a Looney Tunes version of it. And I was like, "Yeah, I still got the stencil, so I should scan that and send that over."
Yeah. Well, I would like to say, kind of ending this up, that it's been cool. Our platoon's kept in touch a bit. We met up this last summer for a little bit. Make sure that guys that you've deployed with or spent time with, reach out to them. Maybe not even for them, but for yourself, because it's always fun. I've
Yeah,
had a great time telling stories with you today. You sometimes you forget about that stuff and how funny it was, and it's good to remember. And then it's I think it's very important, and a big reason we're doing this podcast is that veterans look out for each other because we can understand each other, and
hmm
uh, yeah. So
I,
thanks for
I
coming.
listened to the episode a few episodes ago with Dave Dixon,
Yeah.
and that brought back some good memories too. So it was good to hear that he was doing okay. Because last I heard, he was, like he said, he was living in a camper down in the oil fields, and then he kind of like vanished. I was like, what happened to him? Like, is he okay? And so
Yeah.
I've kept in touch with Peterson as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I
So
need to go try to. They both ride motorcycles.
yeah,
Uh, shoot, I guess I wonder which one of them's closer. I know
uh,
Nebraska is like 12 hours for me to like
yeah,
I think I have, and then
he's down
Dave's
where,
in
like
North
Virginia.
Carolina. No, he's in North Carolina.
Nebraska's definitely closer for you
Yeah.
by a few hours.
What? I rode to my buddy's house in middle of Pennsylvania. It's 500 miles. So I bet it's another 500 maybe.
Oh yeah, easily. Because I think it's like 16 or 18 hours for me to Fort Jackson.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a
But yeah,
haul.
random tangent. Sorry, everybody.
Welcome to the army.
How far are our buddies from where we live?
Yeah, but
So,
you're definitely right. Definitely check on your friends. I like to keep in touch with you and Bill and all them other guys just to make sure, even if it's just Facebook creeping on them, it lets you know
yeah.
that they're still there and everybody's doing okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks for coming on, bro. Thanks for still serving and doing great things and staying motivated. I'm coming up towards the end here and I have no intention of staying in any longer. But it's good to look back and see guys like you that, you were in my team for a deployment and we made the most of it, had a blast, and to
Hmm.
see you kicking ass, man, it's great.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know when that retirement ceremony's hitting so I can be there, eat some
Oh,
cake
dude,
that sucks, and laugh at you.
we're doing it up for sure.
Heck yeah, man.
All right, man, I'll catch you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Incoming, incoming, incoming.